What is the origin of the word bird? You might think such a basic word would have a clear and ancient lineage, but in fact, it has one of the most mysterious origins in the English language. Let's start with what we know. The modern English word bird comes from Middle English bird, or brid, which itself came from Old English brid. But here's where it gets interesting. In Old English, brid didn't mean just any bird. It referred specifically to a young bird, a chick, fledgling, or chicken. The general Old English word for bird, as in the flying kind, was actually fugol. That's the ancestor of our modern word fowl, which used to be the primary term for all birds. So how did brid, a word for baby birds, end up replacing fugol, the main word for grown-up birds? It appears that over time, bird gradually took over. By the 14th century, bird had started replacing fowl in everyday English, especially in speech. And by the early modern period, bird had become the standard word for all avian creatures, young or old, flying or not. But what about the word brid itself? Where did it come from? That's where the mystery begins. Linguists have no clear answer. It appears to be unique to Old English. There are no known cognates in any other Germanic language. That's unusual, especially for a common word. Dozens of etymologies have been proposed over the years, only to be rejected. So we're left with a word whose origin is essentially unknown. Some theories suggest it may have come from a non-Indo-European substrate language, or that it could be onomatopoeic, an imitation of a chick's peeping sounds. Formally, some have tried to link brid to a reconstructed Proto-Germanic form like bridiaz, possibly derived from bridan, meaning board or plank. Why? Because birds perch, and especially fledglings, might have been called perchlings, much like how we say roostling or brancher today. If that's true, then bird might once have meant a perching young one, as opposed to a flying bird. Compare that to the word fowl, which has a much clearer lineage. Fowl comes from Old English fugol, which traces back to Proto-Germanic fuglas, a dissimulated variant of fluglas, from the root flugenen, meaning to fly. So originally, fowl meant something like the flying one, and it's still recognizable in the West Germanic languages and in the North Germanic languages. But over time, fowl narrowed in meaning. In modern English, it mostly refers to domesticated birds, like chickens or ducks. And one more fun fact. The original pronunciation was brid, not bird. Over time, the R and I swapped places, a common sound change known as metathesis. So next time you see a bird in the sky, remember, you're using a word that once meant a chick, whose origins are lost to history, and which somehow rose to become the dominant term, eclipsing even the ancient word that meant flyer. Subscribe to find out more.